And we're back. Welcome back to Mountain Climbers. This is the episode with Dana Hooper, and it's part 2. And so if you have been listening, we just listened to the diagnosis, and we've heard about the challenges that Brent, Dana's son, faced just, in the household. And he got to a point where he was now in supported living and some semblance of independence. And Dana alluded to in our last episode that there are some ups and downs, things that you would think Brent moves out, happy ending, everybody's happy, Brent's happy, everybody's happy, happy home, happy life, happy wife, happy family. And I'm gonna stop now. We're gonna go back to that moment. Brent's out. He is in his own space. He's happy. He comes over for pizza. He goes back home. And you have 2 twins. What are your twins' names?
Tyler and Carolyn.
Tyler and Carolyn. Not somebody who is into alliteration, did not name his children Danica or Denise or Dan. All of which would have been acceptable, but Tyler and Carolyn are now how old when Brent is?
They just this past week had their 45th birthday.
Well, and now we know their ages now. How old were they when Brent moved out?
They were 17-year-olds.
Okay.
Looking at going off to college in a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, after Brent moved out, one went to the East Coast, to Boston University to school, Carolyn.
Okay.
And the other, Tyler, went to LA, USC. And so they both moved out. And for me, I guess it should have been a really high point, but in reality, what was going on is my marriage to their mother was coming to an end, and we separated.
And this is typical of a lot of families, a lot of marriages who've had a child with IDD. Statistically speaking, it said that a lot more than half or almost half of those marriages end in divorce. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that statistic is out there for families, marriages that have had a daughter or son with IDD?
So I think, I don't know for sure, but having a special child clearly creates a lot of additional stress and pressure, and it's not easy to deal with it. I think in my case, we stayed focused on the kids, on Brent, and our relationship was a distance second or third, depending on how you want to view trying to make a living. And so we got, and it wasn't, I didn't really look at it this way. We got to the finish line, got the 2 kids off to college, and Brent settled in a house. And then I felt like I needed to move forward, with my relationship. And that was, it's hard. Been married for 20 plus years. It's hard to recognize that maybe your relationship isn't doing either of you any good. And that there's a lot of years ahead. And what does that really look like? And so deciding to go separate ways was every bit as challenging. In fact, it was more challenging than anything I'd ever dealt with.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, especially when you see, and I'm just gonna say it, a great man like yourself, and I think we were talking about this on the break. You think, oh, this man is, he's privileged, comes from a privileged family, or you've had things handed to you, you're lucky, like, but to hear you talk about a time which I know was difficult, in which someone who had been more full of pride and maybe had things handed to him, he probably would have stayed and suffered through it because he didn't want to be seen as a quitter, or he didn't want everything to fall apart. So take me to the point where the divorce, or maybe not the divorce, maybe the separation had happened, and you had come to grips with the fact that this just wasn't going to work out. At what point did you, I don't know, did you start realizing, okay, I got to move on? Just similar to what happened when you got the diagnosis with Brent, things didn't work out, and you were disappointed. When did you say, okay, I got to move forward? When did that happen?
I mean, it wasn't just like a moment.
Okay.
But there were definitely a couple of things. In my case, they probably never said it, but I thought I learned from my parents, say, you meet the right woman, you get married, you have a family, and that's it.
Hoopers don't quit.
Yeah. And so if I get out of this marriage, I've failed, and I'm going to have to face my parents.
Wow.
And, with a failure. And that was really hard. So that kept me in the marriage, that, and, again, probably got to get the kids to college, get Brent settled, get everybody on a good track, because I don't want to be a quitter, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, I did go to my parents, and they were surprisingly supportive, and it was the first time I realized that some of these standards that I made up, or that I thought were expectations of me, maybe I didn't really understand them, and needed to come to my own conclusion about what my goals were and where my bar was, and cut myself a little slack in terms of what a good job looked like.
Wow.
Right, and so that allowed me to push through the extremely painful process of separating and moving out. I guess I was built that house, and fixed it up, and this is my place and my home, and it's where I raised my kids, and so
now you're tearing
I had to, all of a sudden I had to move out,
Wow.
and that whole process, emotionally and physically, of separating and divorcing, was just extremely painful.
If you're watching or listening to this right now, and maybe at this point you're thinking, oh my God, that sounds exactly like where I'm at, please stay watching, please continue listening. But I think there's something that I want to pull out of that extremely traumatic situation that Dana just described, that I think we all need to listen to and hear again. I heard you say, Dana, that you had these unrealistic pressures on yourself that had guided you through well before the decision of divorce. And that was coming from what you thought was expected of you from your parents. You had placed this, it sounds like a boulder over your head that was kind of hanging by a thread, saying, if I make these decisions, I'm going to disappoint them.
Yeah.
And the exact opposite was true. It sounds like they were very proud of you and all that you had done, and that there was literally nothing you could have done to have messed it up. Is that how you feel about your own children?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I just realized that they always loved and accepted me, and that I shouldn't have been so worried about it. And I guess I internalized that as best I could back to make sure that I wasn't doing the same thing with my own kids. Right? I mean, you can't just go to college. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. You've got to do this. You've got to look like that. Got to be this. And so, and I think I'd already kind of learned that with Brent, accepting him for who he is, not who I want him to be or any variation of that. And so it ultimately probably ended up being healthy, and but it did create a void in my life, yeah, I did end up meeting someone, and a new story began.
Okay.
And
who is this someone?
Yeah, well, her name is Alicia Swanson, and looking back on it now, it was very special, and we recently celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary, and actually are about to, I guess, celebrate having met each other on the mountain. Palisades.
See how he did that?
On March 17th, 30 years ago.
Wow, congratulations.
Right, so 1996 on a mountain, and having no idea at the time we met that we were going to actually have a relationship and get married and have a couple kids and, could hopefully continue to grow old together.
So it sounds like you had kind of a second renaissance, if you will. And a lot of people who are hearing that it's going to give them tons of hope, because something terrible and messy and as awful as a family breaking apart actually ended up being the bedrock for what you described, the base camp, if you will, for the next mountain. Let me ask you this: you met Alicia, you fell in love, you guys knew this was it, and you were ready to marry again. What was going through your mind this second time around?
Well, of course, you don't want to make any mistakes or this,
Sure.
call them the same old mistakes.
Sure,
but
sure.
I guess mostly for me, I wanted to make sure that I brought all the learning that I had, learning about how to be a good dad, how to be a good husband, bring all of those experiences, back to the table, and of course I had to also remember that it was her first time, and so I had a limited number of "I told you so."
Okay.
Right. You know what I mean? That just she still needed to, learn these things herself, and who wants to hear? Well, child rearing can be really challenging. Yeah.
Nobody. No, absolutely nobody.
Right. But I did get to do it again, and we were so lucky. We had two boys.
And your boys' names?
And the oldest one is Elliot, named after my dad, and he's just now graduating from University of Oregon. And then it was followed 2 years later by Bennett, who's now at the University of Colorado at Boulder. He's actually in Barcelona on a semester abroad right now.
Wow.
But both shortly to be adults and out of the house sometime.
Yeah. They're
out of college for
still
sure.
Definitely in college in two very different places. Nowhere near. That's out of state tuition for two colleges. And
I did it 4 times.
Oh God!
And you know what they say about USC?
No.
My son stayed in California, but he didn't go to a state school. He went to the most expensive private school in the whole frickin' state.
Oh
so
my gosh.
four pricey places. So
I bet they were.
thank God I have my mom to help.
Well, I was going to say that part. Help me understand now what goes into Brent's care. Because Brent I'm assuming he's living a happy and healthy life. What goes into his care nowadays, and how many years has it been since he's been in supported living?
Close to 30.
Wow.
Close to 30, maybe not quite. So again, I guess that the context there, with the mountain climbing is it hasn't always been, daisies and roses. He had some health issues, and still deals with some health issues that relate back to having gotten a brain tumor. But through that whole period that he's lived on his own, I've found that I could truly partner as a parent with his mom, and we work really well together to continue to be his parents and supporters. And he comes over for the weekend, a couple of weekends a month, and doesn't last the whole weekend because he wants to go home before too long. But he's in a good place. Thought it was going to be challenging, but we've really pulled it to the blended family together, and my younger boys and the twins and him are really quite close. And I love the fact that blended family is, I don't know, I have a friend up in Tahoe who says, "So what are you doing?" I'm just living a dream, right? Who knew what a blended family might look like or how it might function, but I think I'm living a dream.
Yeah.
And I also inherited a super family from Alicia.
Yes.
So she has a great family, and we've kind of blended together very nicely.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brent, even to this day, has some health issues to deal with, but loves his life. Even after many years being involved in different day activities, he came to be a member of LSA's day program, Community Integration Training Program, and he loves it. And it's the first time he does a community-based day program where he hangs out with the guys. He loves the guys he hangs out with, he's always been the guy who likes to tidy up, clean up, and so he and his program partners are out there, working at different nonprofits, cleaning up and doing doing projects that he loves to do, and so that's been really good.
He's like his father in the sense that you tend to work really well with others that you see have similar values and are going in the same direction. Can I ask now, because this is your second career, what are some of the things that lend itself from your previous career to being able to do a role like the one that you've done for Life Services Alternatives all these years? And you've steered us right, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Um, so I think for me it started growing up, and my father and my mother, but my father, there's no task that you don't get your hands dirty doing. You learn how to do everything. You learn how to take care of yourself. You learn how to build things. You learn how to support others. And in my early work experiences, I'm the guy that that had a whole bunch of different jobs, and I was always doing something. There's again no job too dirty for Dana, and so when I got out of college and I went to work in the for-profit world, I learned to do a lot of stuff. Worked in different functions in different companies, and then ultimately later in my high tech career, I worked in startups. And the kind of the common theme is there was no job too low for me, right? You're working in a startup. Maybe I'm the one of the executives. Well, I'm still take the trash out. Somebody needs to take it out. So again, I guess I learned a whole lot of skills that were very, very useful in preparing me for working at a nonprofit startup. And, in many ways, being completely unprivileged, right? Because there's they're not people, the organization didn't have people to wait on people, right? We were the ones that were there, to support and help others. And so I loved the early days at LSA because I got to do almost every function. And I, again, tried to stay away from the functions that I really didn't have any skill, doing. What I think I learned was that this is how organizations grow, and this is how teams, develop when you have that kind of camaraderie.
Wow. There's, as many of you know who I am and what I represent, there's some proverb that reminds me of, and it's let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation. And that's what I've seen in Dana over these years. I've seen him take out the trash, do recycling. I've seen him sitting there doing payroll receipts when one of his direct reports needs to go somewhere, like a graduation for his kid, and can't do it. He's there doing payroll. I've seen him in HR functions to some capacity, and he's during COVID on Thanksgiving Day took the initiative and was willing to go into the home and take off his apron from cutting his own family dinner to make sure that the individuals that we serve have that. And what a leader. What a leader. I will say this. Typically, when we end a podcast episode, we ask every one of our individuals who come on the episode to talk about what's next, what they see in their future, because there's always just a little bit, not always, but as long as we're breathing air, we're taking in air, there's always just a little bit more to see on the mountaintop. There's a peak. What's next for you, Dana?
I would think that, after all these years, it would get easier, right? And that you could actually see the peak. I'm not sure that I've seen the peak yet, and I hope it's there. Certainly there are going to be some elements. I like to spend more time with my family, more time seeing the world. We try and do that as a priority. I have a really hard time letting go of the making a difference for this community. So I would expect to always be an advocate, and I'm sure there's going to be some changes, some curveballs that I'll have to deal with. But I hope there's still plenty of energy and health to find that next summit and actually make it.
Yeah. Dana, thank you so much for coming on this episode. I actually made it through without crying. And for those of you who have not, and you're sitting there with your box of tissues, I want to, again, thank you for watching this entire series, listening to this entire series. If you haven't, go back and listen to the episodes. But this particular one, it is the actual reason why we started the series. There are very few people who I've come across in my years of doing this that have true vision, and who are able to see things as they are. And Dana has given us a few different angles to look down of his mountain from, and see things as they are. But it sounds like with a true gift, while he was right there in the middle of those valleys, he had to have vision to see that there was more to go and there is some place to be, and to point himself, his family, and even those who are following him and may not be able to see at all in that direction. It also sounds like it's lended itself very nicely in whatever facet of career he's been in, that it was kismet and divine intervention, as he says, for him to come to Life Services Alternatives, to be involved in this community, and to be a voice for those who have not yet found their voice, or maybe just people aren't listening. If you've been inspired at all in any small part by what it is that you've heard, or even what you saw today as we look at this mountain of a man, I'd like to encourage you and invite you to connect with us. Depending on what time of year you're listening to this or hearing this, we do have a community celebration. It's called Home is Where the Heart Is. There's also a couple of other opportunities to sponsor this type of content and support more of the good work that Dana and all his team are doing here, I being one of them. And then there's other ways for you to get involved, and they'll be listed at lsahomes.org. And we invite you, encourage you to connect with us on our social platforms, share these episodes, and then also use any number of our handles to tag us in your conversations. Dana is a leader in his own right and a very special case. We've all been blessed to have been living in his lifetime, so that we can say this was a lifetime of Dana Hooper. But one thing that he said, and I don't want us to lose sight of it before this episode closes out. I thought Dana was going to say, there it is, there's the peak. And instead, Dana says, I hope I can see it. And so if that's you, and you're looking for those peaks, wherever you are in your life right now, and wherever it is that you're finding yourself, we'd like to help navigate with you through that conversation. You've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. You're not alone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the time that you shared with us on this series. It's been a joy doing it.
It's a joy to be here as well.
Thank you so much, Dana. Again, if you're on your valley point or you're making your way to base camp, wherever you are in your journey, thank you for watching this series. Thank you for watching this episode. And thank you for joining us. Take care. Bye for now.